Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift before you even said a word? It is not something you can see, but you can feel it deep in your chest. It is a sudden drop in temperature. Conversations quiet down just a little too quickly. Eyes dart away, or worse, they linger with a cold, unreadable expression. You immediately start replaying your actions in your head. Did you say something wrong yesterday? Did you forget a birthday? Did you make a mistake that everyone knows about but you? But the answer, frustratingly, is always silence. You haven't done anything. Yet, there is an undeniable weight in the air, a silent judgment that feels personal, even though you have no idea where it comes from. It is a confusing, isolating experience to be disliked not for your actions, but for simply existing. If this heaviness feels familiar to you, stay with me. You are not alone. Society often labels people like you as intimidating, aloof, or simply too much. You might hear whispers that you think you are better than everyone else, but deep down, you know that is not true. You are often the most self-critical person in the room. So, what is really happening here? Let's give this role its true name. You are the unintentional mirror. This is a rare and difficult psychological position. By simply being yourself, by refusing to perform, by refusing to shrink you, force others to face what they are lacking. When they look at you, they do not see a person, they see a reflection of the dreams they gave up on, or the authenticity they are too afraid to embrace. You are not the villain of their story, even if they treat you like one. You are the reminder of the story they never had the courage to write. Think back to the hallways of your childhood. Can you remember the smell of the floor wax and the dust of the old library books? Back then, the rules of the game were unspoken but strict. We were taught that if you worked hard, played fair, and did the right thing, you would be rewarded. But for you, the equation never seemed to balance out. Remember that time you scored the highest on the test? You didn't study to beat anyone. You studied because you actually loved the subject. You felt a rush of genuine excitement. You wanted to share it. But when the papers were handed back, you didn't see smiles from your friends. You saw tight lips. You heard the subtle shift in tone during the lunch break. Suddenly, your success felt like a transgression. You hadn't just succeeded, you had unintentionally made everyone else feel like they had failed. Or perhaps it wasn't about grades, maybe it was your energy. Do you remember laughing so hard your stomach hurt, completely lost in a moment of pure joy? And then, looking up to see people watching you with that familiar cold glaze? It was a look that asked a silent question. Who do you think you are? Why are you so happy when we are not? In those environments, schoolyards, family gatherings, small towns, conformity was the only currency that mattered. There was a scarcity of space for individuality. Everyone was fighting for the same small slice of attention, the same limited approval from authority figures. When you shined, even without meaning to, it felt like you were stealing oxygen from the room. You started to notice a painful pattern. When you were quiet, when you made yourself small, people were comfortable. They liked you when you were struggling just like them. But the moment you stood tall, the moment you showed a glimpse of your potential, the walls went up. This was the scarcity you grew up with, a scarcity of unconditional celebration. You learned a confusing lesson very early on. You learned that your light casts a shadow on others. You learned that to keep the peace, you often had to betray your own potential. You began to associate your own excellence with guilt. You walked around apologizing for gifts you didn't ask for, trying to shrink yourself to fit into boxes that were never built to hold you. So, what happens to a person who grows up learning that their existence is a problem? Initially, you probably tried to fix it. This is the tragic phase of overcorrection. You became hypervigilant. You learned to read micro-expressions better than anyone else. You became a chameleon, constantly adjusting your temperature to match the room, dimming your light just enough so it wouldn't blind anyone. You thought, if I'm just nicer, if I'm just more helpful, if I just explain myself better, they will finally understand. But it never worked. Did it? And here is the harsh, liberating truth. It was never designed to work, to understand why. We have to look at a concept from Carl Jung called the shadow. Jung believed that we all carry a shadow bag, a collection of traits, desires and dreams that we have repressed because we were told they were unacceptable. When someone hates you for no logical reason, it is almost always a case of shadow projection. You are not being rejected for your defects, you are often being rejected for your assets. But specifically, the assets that the other person has denied in themselves. Think about the colleague who mocks your ambition. They aren't really angry at your work ethic. They are angry at their own complacency. Your movement reminds them that they are standing still. Or consider the friend who calls you too sensitive or dramatic when you express deep emotion. They aren't annoyed by your feelings. They are terrified of their own numbness. They have spent years building a dam to hold back their emotions, and you are the crack in that dam. This creates a psychological state known as cognitive dissonance in them. When they see you living your truth, their brain has two options. Option A is to admire you, but admiration is expensive. Admiring you means admitting that they could be doing what you are doing, but they aren't. It requires them to take responsibility for their own unhappiness. So, the brain chooses option B, envy and devaluation. It is much cheaper, psychologically speaking, to tear you down than to build themselves up. If they can convince themselves that you are arrogant or fake, then they don't have to change. Your destruction validates their stagnation. The major psychological shift happens when you stop taking this personally. It is a painful realization, but it is the path to freedom. You realize that you have been acting as a screen for their internal movies. Their anger is not a conversation with you, it is a monologue with themselves. You start to see the mechanics of it. You notice that the people who dislike you the most are often the ones who have compromised the most in their own lives. A happy person, a truly fulfilled person, never attacks someone for no reason. Contentment doesn't need to destroy, only misery needs company. Once you understand this, the heavy burden of fixing it drops off your shoulders. You realize you cannot control their projection any more than a mirror can control the reflection it casts. You stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start asking, "What is hurting in them?" And while that doesn't make the hostility pleasant, it does make it powerless over your self-worth. You begin to shift from seeking their validation to protecting your own peace. So, where does this leave you? It leaves you in a place of quiet, sovereign power. You have to accept a difficult truth. Being misunderstood is the price you pay for being real. It is the tax of authenticity. But consider this. What if this rejection is actually a form of protection? Think of your authenticity as a natural filter. When you are fake, when you people please, you attract everyone, but you connect with no one. You are a blurry signal that anyone can tune into. But when you are yourself unapologetically and kindly, you become a specific frequency. The people who are repelled by your frequency are simply vibrating at a different rate. Their departure is not a loss, it is a clearance. They are making space for the people who are actually meant to be there. The people who will look at your mirror and see not a threat, but an inspiration. The ones who will see your fire and, instead of trying to put it out, will come closer to warm their hands. You are like a lighthouse. A lighthouse does not run around the island looking for boats to save. It does not turn off its light because the captain of a passing ship complains that it is too bright. It simply stands. It simply shines. It stays true to its purpose. The ships that need the light will find it. The ships that don't will sail past. Neither is your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to keep the glass clean and the light burning. I want to leave you with a question to sit with tonight. Perhaps when the house is quiet, ask yourself, have you been dimming your light just to make the shadows in the room feel more comfortable? And if you stopped, who might finally be able to find you? If this rhythm resonates with your own story, let me know in the comments. I read them, and I see you. Until next time, take care of your mind.